Hello and thank you for joining the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. Today on the program, Governor El-Rufai seeks help as bandits kill 50 kids, 1,142 others, and kidnap 3,348 persons in Kaduna in 2021. And later on the show, governors, lawmakers clash over new clauses in electoral bill. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Sam Ibrahim. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Let's start today's program with the crisis within the All Progressive Congress in Kwara State. It appears that the more we look, the less we see regarding the crisis rocking the ruling All Progressive Congress in Kwara State. This is because rather than abating, the crisis within the party is festering. The Kwara chapter of APC said the lingering crisis among factions in the state is yet to be resolved, contrary to claim made by the National Reconciliation Committee of the party. The publicity secretary of APC faction, that is the one loyal to Minister for Information and Culture, that's Ibrahim Sharafaddin, described the purported reconciliation as false, stressing that none of the warring factions and concerned stakeholders sat on a table for reconciliation. Jide, we started this series yesterday or the first day, and we're talking about states that we know that all is not well, that if that convention holds today, that there's some states that they will need to look into, and the impression created that all is well with APC Kwara State seemed not to be the real position.
Yes, and it shows, because for one of the stakeholders to have come out to tell us that, look, no real reconciliation took place, we were not called to a meeting, none of us sat with the Senator Adamu-led National Reconciliation Committee members with a view to resolving lingering issues. So that raises serious doubts about the quality of the work that Senator Adamu has done. I have no doubt at all in my mind that some of these crises, some of these conflicts in the various states are not easy to resolve. Mm-hmm. Some of them date back to 2015, and they are still there. That's why I said there are individuals in the party who assume themselves to be greater than the party. Some of those individuals, if they don't show them the door, if they don't kick them out of the party, conflicts in some states will never be resolved. There are people who have made up their minds that, look, I'm in charge here, I'm the Lord of the manor here. As long as I'm here, you will never be anything in this party. There are individuals like that, and we know them. But as long as the party does not find a way to rein in those people, to bring them under the control, to get them to realize that the interest of the party is greater than individual egos, these problems will remain. I think that even the Reconciliation Committee, in some cases, will just tell themselves that, look, it's a waste of time. These people will not agree to work together. So
Seated animosity.
Maybe in some cases they chose not to even call some people, because they must have assumed that, oh, look, this person abused the minister the other day, the minister will not come, because I know the minister didn't attend any meeting by way of reconciliation, any meeting meant to reconcile aggrieved APC members in Kwara State. I know the minister didn't attend such a meeting. So if the minister that is the leader of his group and a key stakeholder in this whole Kwara mess was not part of any reconciliation meeting, is it safe to believe that some of the little boys within his group were the people who went there? So clearly there's still a lot of work left undone, and the party will hurt itself if it believes that some people look, even if we don't reconcile them, we will still win. This was the way they were thinking back then in Bauchi, in Adamawa and other places. We warned them. Since 2016, I was warning, you will lose Adamawa if you do not reconcile Bindo with Baba Memongoro and co. They didn't listen to me. They didn't listen. In fact, a big party member told me, did they forget all you say on journalist hangout? The structures of Baba Memongoro have been inherited. As it turned out, those structures were not inherited. In fact, if they were inherited by his son, who took those structures to the ADC, and the ADC, the votes that the ADC recorded, if they had matched those votes with the votes of the APC would have won the election easily. So there's no gain in all of these squabbles, that the party members are dragging themselves into.
Sam, it's like the stakes are higher because this is the party in power. If you remember, pre-2015, PDP was that hot. They got into the Supreme Court and he took the chief judge of the country himself to adjudicate, consolidate all the matters and try to just save the party from dying.
You're absolutely correct. The stakes are higher. Elections are just a few months away. And I understand that in the next 6 months or thereabouts, INEC will declare the field open. So you can understand the pushing and shoving.
It's the Electoral Act that they are waiting for.
Yes.
They would have rolled out the timetable.
The pushing and shoving is going to get even more intense. So my takeaway basically from what is happening in Kwara State is that if there's any peace, as has been suggested by the acting chairman of APC, it's basically a piece of the graveyard. And it is good that someone is speaking up very early. Otherwise, if you have a situation where nobody is speaking from within the Kwara axis, then you could just have a blowout at the end of the day. So yes, definitely the stakes are higher. Are there lessons learned from the past? We don't seem to have any. And I think this is all about a manifestation of super greed. Yes, politics is an interest-driven game, but there must be give and take. So we have a situation where people are not just willing, to consider anything. You want the entire thing. You want to have absolute control, of the party structure, because that is what is going to influence, who gets whatever at the end of the day. But then there is supposed to be a stakeholder, approach to it. No one should assume that he or she, has absolute control. Otherwise, you just find that the party sinks right there under you. So for Kwara, I hope there will be lessons learned. For me, I think this is just all a manifestation of greed.
So ultimately, we want a situation whereby the governor, that's the main actor now, and the Minister of Information will be able to sit down and iron things out.
Sometimes even when they sit down, they still don't forgive one another. Nigerian politicians are a rare breed.
So those
in terms of the capacity for wickedness
and mischief,
Nigerian politicians are a rare breed. They may sit together, they may be laughing,
snap together,
but they may snap each other, they may hug each other. Ayo, why are you going too far into this? We saw a meeting that was purportedly held somewhere in Osun State. And the people who were part of that meeting, they even drove in the same car.
Yes.
Let me ask you, has that matter been resolved? Is it not even worse now?
Worse.
So even when you see politicians hug themselves, laugh heartily, to one another, it doesn't suggest that the matter, the lingering matter has been resolved. I saw, even as a little boy in Kwara, I saw Saraki, the Olusola Saraki.
Yes.
Shehu Shagari at the Lorimini Stadium. It was assumed that the quarrel had ended because Saraki had these issues with Adamata, who was in Ghana, and he brought him to Nigeria to contest as governor, and he became governor. But he felt he was not respecting him, was no longer giving him the regard that was given him. And this matter became explosive. Then the party leadership waded in Saraki came to, Shagari came to Kwara and raised up Adamu Atta's hand and said, look, the quarrel has ended. Then my mom told me, I don't think this quarrel has ended. You know, I don't know, maybe it was the body language that my mom, but she told me this quarrel has not ended. Immediately after they left, because even school children, they mobilized them, they were by the roadside waving those little flags and all that. Immediately, Shagari and others returned to Lagos as federal capital.
Then,
what did we see? Oloye called his supporters and said, see, everything that we did that place is just a
Photo ops.
photo opportunity. Forget. On Saturday, this is the party that you vote for.
to vote against Adamu Atta.
Yes. And that was how Cornelius Adebayo was able to win. Yes. He defeated the incumbent with the support of the party leader in the state. So some of these things, sometimes you see them laughing. It doesn't mean that they've forgiven one another. I fear them a lot, these people.
Moving on now, the killings in Kaduna may be more grievous than we think. It's sad that somber-looking Governor Nasir El-Rufai reeled out gloomy details of the spate of insecurity that has held Kaduna State by the jugular. Receiving reports of the security challenges facing the state, compiled by the Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, the governor said Kaduna lost 1,192 residents to bandits. Check out that figure. To bandit attack across the states in 2021, while 3,348 citizens were kidnapped. The figure represents an average of 3 residents daily. Let's share the story with you.
Insecurity in Kaduna State is yet to abate, despite sustained offensive campaigns by federal security agencies with support from the state government. Kaduna government officials, together with senior security operatives, gathered to deliberate on solutions to this situation. A security report for the year 2021 revealed that at least 1,192 persons were killed and several others injured due to banditry and other violent crimes. 3,348 people were kidnapped, 45 others raped, with 29 of them reportedly minors. Kaduna Central Senatorial Zone was the worst hit.
We also observed in 2021 that there's a growing interaction between bandits and terrorist groups like Boko Haram, ISWAP, and Ansaru. And it has manifested recently.
The spate of insecurity in 2021 threatened education and social cohesion and led to attack on health facilities. It also brought an imminent collapse of the rural economy, and food insecurity looms. This report is a bitter pill for the governor, who has supported efforts by the federal security agencies to wipe out bandits. He is calling on the federal government to establish a military theater command in the state, just as was done in the northeast.
The creation of such a theater command will enable a holistic approach to counter-insurgent operations across the 6 affected states, and the enhanced coordination of the resources of the armed forces, the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Army, and the Navy, as well as the police, the SSS, our respective state vigilance services, hunters, and other local volunteers to fight these insurgents.
The officials say deliberate malicious media campaigns, selective condemnation of attacks, and manipulation of faith as a tool of division has done so much harm to the state.
We are strengthening the human intelligence gathering networks in critical areas. Ground and air assault have been intensified by the military, that is the Air Force, in locations spanning Birnangwari, Igabi, Giwa, Chokun, Kajuru, and Zaria LGAs. Scores of bandits have been neutralized so far, and many camps destroyed via air interdictions. This will continue with renewed intensity following the recent designation of bandits as terrorists.
Security officials are calling on residents in the state to desist from taking up arms and laws into their hands, as it will only make matters worse. Lupe Asom, TVC News, Kaduna.
It's very, very alarming.
It is.
The statistics, the figures rolled out in Kaduna State,
It's
not looking as if.
I even commend the Kaduna people for their transparency, for taking the pains to track these killings, this level of kidnapping. If Zamfara were to do its own, because Zamfara is now officially dubbed the most unsafe state in our country. So if Zamfara were to do its own, so these figures we are seeing will be a child's play. If Niger were to do its own, we will be startled.
Katsina.
And Katsina too. But Kaduna is methodically doing this so that they can know the flashpoints, they can know areas that they need to concentrate on and all that. These figures are, they send clear signals to us, because this level of fatality, they are telling us now that it is 27.21% increase over last year, over 2020. So is security improving? Because statistics will clearly point the truth to you.
That's contrary to what some people want us to make us believe that
Things are
getting
improving.
better.
No,
So
for
with
these statistics, with 891 injured, when they tell you the number of the injured, among the injured, some will die.
Yes, eventually.
So 27.21% increase over the previous year. That should tell you that we are not improving in terms of security, and that should actually ring alarm bells. 50 kids. I mean, it's startling. Just yesterday, at Zango Kataf and Kagoro, these people launched attack and they killed 29 persons at Krume Masara. So that's not part of these figures that we are dealing with. And they kidnapped 32 persons in Kajuru. Although the youths attacked them and rescued those kidnapped, but one person was left unrescued. These wicked people now set that person ablaze, burnt the person to ashes.
You can imagine what it's like, Sam, if 1,192 residents, were lost to bandits attack across the states, just Kaduna states in 2021. 1,000.
We've just noted that such grim figure, you don't even find it in some war-torn territories. That's how bad it is. Some countries that are currently experiencing war don't have this kind of bad figures.
No.
That is being shared.
No.
So
Not Somalia, not Syria.
Do you understand?
Not Afghanistan.
It's terrible. And I'd like to join, Jude, to commend the level of transparency, that the Kaduna State government, exhibiting. And I think that if the government is serious, there's enough credible intelligence out there to rely on in terms of its war against banditry and terrorism. So when these figures are shared, it's not just meant for public consumption. We're asking ourselves, what are the security agencies doing with these figures? Not just in Kaduna State, but across the entire Northwest. And even the governor has called for, establishment of a Theta command. It just tells you that this is no longer a case of, intermittent attacks on the people of Kaduna State, that this is full-fledged war.
Yes.
That's what the governor is saying in essence.
The level of the threat is like that of
very
Northeast.
high. Yeah.
In terms of killings now, is worse than Northeast.
So it's again, we ask ourselves, what is the government at the center doing with this? El-Rufai had just simply told us that he's helpless, as it were. That all he could do in the face of this crisis is just to tell us, look, this is what my state is going through. He doesn't have the ultimate power to go out and contain this challenge. So it's up to the authorities that are firmly in control of the military to deal with this matter. It's gone beyond, we already branded them terrorists, as it were. So it's no longer a case of bandits. In fact, the governor used the word insurgency. I quote him. Said the level of insurgency has become so unbearable that the government needs to establish a theater command. So this is full-fledged war. Let's not pretend anymore. The facts, the figures are very disturbing. Remember, the man in Zamfara once told us that the number of bandits in his own state were over 30,000.
I have Elder Dari from Kaduna State. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good evening, Banditry and your colleague there.
Good evening.
You see, Kaduna is supposed to be the most secure state in this country.
Yes.
Why? Because we have areas of military formations in Kaduna. The Nigerian Defense Academy, the Air Force Base, the Nigerian Depot, Army School of Artillery in Kachia, and all was not.
NMS.
But yet, Kaduna is the devil is insecurity. Please, let's tell ourselves the truth. I don't believe the government saying they need a theater formation for this security issues to be resolved.
No.
If there is synergy among the military and the political will, these guys are not beyond what our gallant men and women can deal with. But it's like we are playing the ostrich, like Babajide will always say. If there is this political will, these guys, are they spirits? They collect ransom, they collect machine, motorcycles,
yes.
And yet what are we talking about? There should be synergy among the security personnel and the vigilante and the volunteers. I think these things will be dealt with once and for all. It's rather disheartening. The number that is being here, the government will reel out the number of people that were killed, and the government will not tell us what they are doing to stem the tide of this killing. Come on. Something needs to be done, and it needs to be done urgently.
Jide, maybe, thank you. Jide, maybe we're used to, it's now becoming like a norm. In some countries, if this kind of statistic is read out,
10 persons is enough to bring down a government.
Absolutely.
Prime Minister, everybody, they will resign.
We always remember this incident in Belgium during the European Cup match involving Liverpool and Juventus, where fans died in the stadium. It led to the fall of the government. A football match, the government had to leave at the end of the day. Look at all the noise generated by the killing of just about, I think about 8 to 10 persons in France.
In France, that time.
World leaders were holding hands. They were going there, you know, and it became something really global.
We were backing ourselves safe.
Even Nigerians were sharing their flag. They were sharing their flag. They were solidarizing with them, sharing the flag of France, and saying we stand with France. Whereas in your own country, on a given day, hypocritical Nigerians, they are not solidarizing with their own people who are dying. So that's to tell you the contrasts in terms of how we value human life. Elsewhere, 10 people killed by terrorists in one day cannot be tolerated.
No.
Now in our country, it's getting to the point that if people are not up to 40 that are dead, it is not even a front page news. You talk somewhere, because we have already gotten used to it, to people dying like fowl. It has become to us like breathing in and breathing out. I mean, that is not, it's not ideal. It's unacceptable. Things have to change. How can we have, just as the Elder Ibrahim just said, Kaduna has a huge number of military formations.
Everything.
One div is the number one military formation in our country. It's there in Kaduna. NMS is there. Even the Emir of Zaria said so, that how come we are not secure with all these military bases? The Emir of Zaria was angry. How come with all this we are not secure? So the governor is calling for a fresh theater command. With all of those military bases again.
Okay, we'll take this break. When we come back, we'll discuss more. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, this is your favorite news and current affairs program, Journalist Hangouts, and we're reaching you from Lagos, Nigeria, and we're looking at the security situation in Kaduna State. Sam, I don't know, if we continue like this, I know that the governor, to a large extent, is incapacitated with the formation in Nigeria. I know this will now just go back to the federal government, that we can't continue to watch people die this way. And any government, this government seems to be helpless.
Yeah, it's, you know, we've talked about political will, but I'd like to add that not just the ordinary citizens that are restless. Some of us also have contacts within the military. Even within the military, I can tell you with every sense of responsibility that there's also restlessness. I must take it very serious. I know I'm before national television. There's restlessness. And that is because there are serious complaints about numbers. There are serious complaints about fighting machines. I can tell you that in confidence. So the government needs to sit up and do the right thing. Have to take it very serious. We've got to have the political will to deal with this. And this concern has been voiced by even very senior officers that some of us relate with. The political will. Sometimes they have the readiness they want to do, and they're told, don't take it this far. We've had such challenges, and I say this with every sense of responsibility. So our government needs to understand that the level of restlessness that we are seeing across most parts of the country, our soldiers who have done so very well, even within the limited, arms and equipment at their disposal, are also getting very worried that this challenge, this security challenge, is dragging for too long. We are talking about over 10 years. So for how long more? Are we to believe that the prediction made by the former Army Chief, Brate, that this war will last for 20 years? We don't have that patience. In the next 10 years, this country, if we continue this way, probably wouldn't exist anymore. Some of us have argued that we are beginning to manifest signs of a failed state. If not as a country, but some states. I mean, we already said that Zamfara is the center of it all.
Going into the bush to negotiate with bandits.
Do you understand?
Because government
is not there. And we just take it as it's one of those things. I mean, I recall what Jide said earlier. We just take it. I mean, this number is not what should make the front page. Yes. So life has become near worthless. No country can exist for much longer if we don't nip this problem and deal with it.
No, if we don't deal decisively with it, it will get worse. And when it gets worse, we will have no country. It's as simple as that. People can laugh at what's going on, look at us and say, see, they come, doomsday prophets. But we don't want that to happen to our country, because some of us have chosen to remain here. We didn't go to Canada. This is our country, and we want a better country, a country that is secure. We cannot reflate our economy when foreign direct investment is shrinking. Look at the figures for last year. It's the lowest in our most recent history.
Right.
In terms of foreign direct investment. Who will come and invest in
environment
in an atmosphere of uncertainty where even you could be kidnapped? The governor of Taraba was telling me they are constructing a road leading up to the fringes of the Mambila, the dam. The terrain is better than that single road that goes to Mambila. So they are constructing a road, through Abom, through Mararaba and others. And the white people who were constructing the road, these guys came, took them away. And he said for months they were in their hands. That they had to negotiate until they brought big money before they released those white people. So that in itself caused the project to stop. So people will look at a governor and say, all this while they've been on this road, they are still not completed. When for about 6 months, they took away the contractor. So how do we just need to do much better in terms of protecting our people. We need to do much better. The way we are, if the strategy is not good enough, because we can see the end product suggests that the strategy is not good enough, why don't we tweak the strategy? And if we need help, let's ask for help and solve this problem. People can't be dying now and we'll be behaving like no, nothing has happened.
But Mr. President keeps saying that history will vindicate him, that what he will be remembered for when he leaves office. You've seen that. I think people are not feeding him with the right information. I don't know, maybe Mr. President has the number of figures, the total cumulative figure of the people, the number of people that are attacked by bandits and they die every time in the northeast. I mean, in the northwest.
We can only imagine. There's a lot of deceit going on, and I mean, you and I know how, people around Mr. President, operate. Most government houses, a lot of hangers on, people who would say the truth because they want to get, some kind of favor and all that. But I'll be shocked, knowing the kind of character that we have as president, that he wouldn't want to avail himself with the right figures. I mean, a former general.
I'm sure he
has
information.
He has information to deal with it. It's the political will that we're talking about. And most of us are convinced that what is lacking is the political will to contain this challenge. If and when we resolve to do that, we will make quick progress. I'm convinced.
We have to join us more for the discussion on this is the Commissioner for Home Affairs and Internal Security, Kaduna State, Samuel Arua. Thank you for joining us, Honorable.
Good evening, Uncle Jide. My regards.
Good evening.
Well done. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you and to your government. We've seen fresh figures from your end. Once again,
yes.
What are the quick takeaways from the set of statistics reeled out from your end?
Well, the quick takeaway is the fact that security agencies were able to neutralize 308 terrorists in 2021. 309 bandits or terrorists were neutralized, and security forces equally recovered so many arms and ammunition from these terrorists. And it may also interest you to know that the Nigerian Air Force successfully neutralized many of them through various air interdictions across the states. But attacks from the air is not so possible for you to have an accurate figure of terrorists that were neutralized. And another takeaway is the fact that we are able to also understand the main sources of bandit revenue from ransom for kidnap hostages, which is generally known, to sales of Russell cattle, to profits from gun running and arms trade, leasing of weapons to other bandit groups, because some guys rent out their weapons to groups who lack capacity, And we also discovered that proceeds from joint operations, because for a bandit group to successfully kidnap over 100 students, they really have to come together with other criminal groups. And we also try to look at how bandits spend money they make, from buying more arms and ammunition to logistics and medical aid, and payment of informant and accomplices, establishment of apparently legitimate businesses managed by informant and associate within communities. Another angle of this report, we also talk about the threats to food security, The other aspect has to do with threat to education. Like in 2021, several institutions were attacked from Birnin Wadi to Kajuru. We have a few pupils that were kidnapped and some teachers. Still under threat to education, like in March 2021, 39 students of Federal College of Forestry Mechanization were kidnapped. And the same thing happened in April, where Greenfield University students were kidnapped, and about 5 students were killed. I personally went to the bush and picked up these corpses onwards to the mortuary. Then there is also a threat to healthcare service delivery. There is a hospital in Idon in Kajuru local government that was attacked, and 2 nurses on duty were kidnapped. The same thing happened at the National Tuberculosis and Leprosy Training Center in Zaria. So we also look at the imminent collapse of rural economy. So these are some of the things contained in this report, alongside with threats to social cohesion. And finally, we also make some critical observations as to what happened in 2021. We observed that ethnic and religious narratives continue to be built around banditry. Aggrieved groups recruit criminal mercenaries to carry out revenge attacks against those they believe have attacked them. There are also alliances between some communities to execute attacks on others. It may also interest you to know that we also discovered or observed the interaction between Boko Haram, ISWAP, and Ansaru with the bandits here in the Northwest. As I speak to you, you must have heard of what happened sometimes last week, where troops, while trying to engage these terrorists, experienced a landmine attack put on their part by these terrorists. And we also observe that there is deliberate malicious media campaigns by individuals and groups which undermine security and peace in the state. So these are highlights of what the 2021 report contained.
Commissioner, because we really do not have enough time, we want to ask you what steps have been taken by the Kaduna state government to ensure that these startling and sobering figures of the dead in the year 2021, we do not have such figures in 2022.
Well, thank you. First and foremost, on the side of our campaign against banditry, we are strengthening the human intelligence networks so that we can collaborate more with federal security agencies. We also want to reiterate our commitment to providing material and logistic support to federal security agencies. That is on the aspect of banditry or terrorism. Like I explained, we intend to do more in the area of human intelligence. We also intend to do more in the area of collaboration and providing logistic and material support to federal security agencies. Then on the other side, where we are having problems related with communal clashes, or attacks arising from farmer-header conflict, we intend to empower Kaduna State Peace Commission to triple their engagement across the state. And lastly, I'd like you to know that we will also scale up the campaign for all sides involved in conflict to always recourse to the law. because recourse to the law is very important. And that is why since 2015, our position has been very clear that if a herder while grazing comes under attack, what we expect his community to do is to recourse to the law and not to attack a sleeping community on the allegation that they attack a herder. And the same thing on the side of native or host communities. When someone goes to the farm and he comes under attack, we expect the side to also recourse to the law, because the recourse to the law is very important, and it will reduce the bloodshed and the bloodshed that we are experiencing. And I want to tell you, GD, when we put all this together, the sobering number that we experience in 2021 is likely to go down when we will give
Commissioner for Home Affairs and Internal Security, I want to thank you, Mr. Samuel Arua. We just had to leave it there. Thank you so much. Thank you for your intervention. And finally, the National Assembly transmitted the reworked Electoral Act Amendment Bill to President Muhammadu Buhari for accent, after addressing reservations on some provisions. While we await presidential assent, some governors and lawmakers are clashing over new clauses in the bill. The governors described the clauses as a booby trap set up by the legislators to whittle down their influence ahead of the 2023 general election. Julie, I thought when the president got that bill and the president rejected it, the president specified that, it was the direct or the direct primary thing that he feels, and he wrote
made compulsory.
And he listed the reason why he cannot, sign that bill as at that time. So I thought it would go to the National Assembly, and the National Assembly will just look at it. Okay, this is a controversial clause. Remove it and return it to the president. But they just go to the House and start hearing of consensus, hearing of some other things.
No, you see, let's be fair to these lawmakers. They are trying to protect their political future. Governors are behaving as if within the political firmament, they are the only ones who can use power, and they are the only ones who have power, or that even the parties belong to them. Other people are important in a political party. It's like a chain. You can't say the masses, the ordinary man on the street, the ordinary party member is not important. He's the one who will vote for you. You understand? Now, when this whole thing came, the lawmakers wanted direct primary alone. And why did they come up with that? Because what we saw at the APC congresses, when some governors quarantined their federal lawmakers, in order not to be destroyed politically, they then said, okay, now it has to be direct, so that the direct primaries, in their view, will at least be more participatory. Everybody can participate and vote. Everybody will be able to vote. It's like indirect, where only a select few will decide for others. Now, when that happened, the president said, no, don't make it direct primaries alone. Let there be other options. Let there be indirect. Let there be indirect. By the time they took it, by the time those guys were working on it, in fact, the House of Reps had finished work. We then discovered that governors had lobbied the Senate to include consensus. Consensus was not part of the discussion, not part of the conversation. Now, when they added consensus, it was clear that the whole thing had the hand of the president as well. So the lawmakers knew that they would not make a headway. So the House of Reps, instead of even having the normal tradition is to have the committee of both houses to now harmonize. They said no, that will waste time, especially given the alarm that INEC raised, that this thing was taking too long. The House of Reps now sat down and included consensus. But they are not fools. They will not simply include consensus. Every provision has clauses, subclauses, and other. So they now came up with, okay, because consensus, in their view, was simply a ploy by governors to be handpicking people. We saw what happened in Zamfara when Shomole claimed that there was consensus. And Yari said, no, where did we meet to agree on consensus? The stubborn Senator Kabiru Marafa also said, no, there was no consensus. Once those two stakeholders said there was no consensus, and they represent the two factions, INEC disagreed and refused to accept the list that Oshomole presented. Oshomole felt as national chairman, once he gave INEC a list, INEC will accept. But INEC then said no. For consensus to be accepted, all the stakeholders must be in agreement. So what they are trying to do now is to say, okay, for us to agree on that consensus had indeed taken place, there must be written consent by all the aspirants. So if you have 18 aspirants contesting for governorship, each person must write that yes, I agree. You know that is difficult.
I think there's a calculated attempt to score to all the lofty provisions inside this Electoral Act, because I don't know why. I see if the president now is hesitant to sign this again, or governors are piling pressure on the president not to sign this again now, where do we go from here? February 18 next year is the election. Are we going to use the 2015 Electoral Act for 2023 general election?
Ayo, this simply confirms what most of us have always observed as prevalent within our political system: selfish interest. So this is not about the governors and the lawmakers thinking about the larger group, which includes you and I, but about how they survive within that ecosystem where there is contestation for power. That's just simply it. I mean, why would a discerning soul, okay, want to go against a clause that says, I mean, if there are 10 of us, let's pen it down and say we all agree that
each of us must write.
Do you understand? Why would anyone quarrel with that? That's one clause. The other clause here is that you should resign
before the primaries.
Before the primaries. So imagine the governor.
So if you lose the primaries, you've not even lost the election. So you mean if you lose the primaries, that you've lost your position.
That explains why the governors are bent on, you might want to use the word scuttle, because the moment they step out of power, that influence that they wield is gone. So that's a booby trap that we're talking about. But the president has no choice to endorse this. We want to make progress. INEC wants to have a clear understanding of what the roadmap is in terms of organizing elections.
If you are a senator, you want to contest for governor, you must give up that seat.
Yes.
That's what they are saying.
And I don't see what is wrong with that. But because they want to be in a position to influence it.
If you be, I know somebody who was a director in the Federal Civil Service who contested for the governorship seat. He lost, but went back to his job. So they don't want that to happen again.
Exactly.
That look, once you make up your mind to do primaries, that position you must give it up and go for the primaries.
So history would not be kind to President Muhammadu Buhari, because somebody
if he
was
doesn't sign this one again.
Yes, somebody was counting.
We must encourage him to sign. We must encourage him to sign. As things are now, we must encourage him. Do our best to encourage him to sign.
Can't tell me all these beavers that INEC came out with now, that there will be a legal framework supporting it. We throw everything away and revert to...
Oh, it's early days. Let's give him...
I think he has 30 days, right?
He still has time. He still has time. Let's encourage the
and
president
to not listen. Will not communicate till maybe the end of the expiration of that 30 days. If he has a reservation now,
it's very possible.
He may be weighing his options.
He
may be weighing his options. He may be weighing his options. Or maybe he decides he is a late decider on what steps to take. So what we can encourage him to do is to not always listen to these governors. Governors are by nature selfish. This is a fact. Look at when the president said, see, I want autonomy for this, I want autonomy for that. What did they do? Before the president will gazette that thing, they ran there. They ran to go and meet. No, don't gazette it. What? Until these people went on strike. Until judicial workers went on strike. So meanwhile, this is in the constitution. that each arm of government shall be autonomous. That the chief judge shall be the chief, shall be the custodian of the finances of the judiciary. So, but this is the president. We should encourage him not to always listen to these people. Let him bear the interests of the generality of our people in mind at all times.
And the very good innovations that
yes,
this Act will
because
bring.
at the end of the day, it will take the credit that during his time, these revolutionary steps were taken by INEC.
Electronic transmission of this from the polling units.
For me, there are two legacies that Mr. President should be concerned about. One is how he makes our electoral processes,
more
credible. Two, the other legacy he should be concerned is bequeathing a safe and secure country to Nigerians. If he doesn't do that, every other thing that he does will count for nothing.
All right.
People won't remember
nothing.
Second Niger Bridge. They won't remember.
Sam Ibrahim, thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
And the messenger himself, DQ, Babajide Kolade Titoju, thank you for always being there. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight until 11 p.m. And don't forget to join us every Sunday, 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. for Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. See you tomorrow, and God bless Nigeria.